Hi y'all, I'm Brenda with Blessings and Bread. Welcome to my kitchen. Today I'm thinking all things pumpkin. We're well into fall now. We're near the end of October, almost to November, and this time of year I just really think about all kinds of things that I'm going to make with pumpkin. Today though, I'm going to show you how you can take the pumpkin pie pumpkins. They have to be a special pie pumpkin, and we're going to bake those to make our own pumpkin puree. So come along with me today while I make my own pumpkin puree. I have already rinsed and dried off my pumpkins. These are, as I said, they're sugar pie pumpkins, and they are definitely sweeter. They're about 142, I think I looked it up, varieties of pumpkins. Pumpkins are actually in the squash family, the winter squash family, because they have a harder outer layer, or outer skin, but they're super easy to bake. So we're just going to get started, and we're going to start by kind of cutting off the top here. If I was stronger, I could just pop off that stem, but I'm going to cut through this. I sharpened my knife, so let's see if it works. Definitely you want to be careful when you're doing this because you're dealing with a round surface and it makes it harder to cut through. It wiggles around. Once I get this cut off though, I'll have a flat surface now. And now I can put my flat surface down so that I can cut this in half. So now we're going to cut it in half, which goes much easier. All right. And then when you open it up, what you have is you have some membrane and you have your seeds in there. And we're going to want to get rid of that. So we're going to put that in a bowl, and actually I don't want to put that in there because you can actually toast your pumpkin seeds for a little snack. So, and if you have an heirloom pumpkin, you can actually save the seeds to plant for the next year. These are not, I honestly don't know. I bought these at Walmart. So these are just or at the grocery store. It might not have been Walmart, but I'm just going to scrape every bit of that membrane out, and later I'll come back and separate the seeds from the membrane so I can roast them. But you don't want any of this little stringy stuff left that's hanging down. Make sure all of that gets out. Even if you have to scrape away a little bit of your pumpkin flesh there, you really want to clean that up really well. Now, a can of pumpkin has about 14.5 ounces in it, I think, to 15 ounces, somewhere around that. So, and usually that's what it calls for to make one pie. We'll see when we get this made how much we have, but you'll want to bake enough pumpkins to get the right amount for your recipe. Again, I'm making sure I get all of those strings out because that will affect the texture of your pumpkin puree. Pumpkin pie is definitely one of my favorite fall desserts. To me, it just doesn't feel like Thanksgiving either if you don't have a pumpkin pie. I have a pumpkin pie video online already that I made last year. So if you want to know how to make a pumpkin pie, you can go watch my video there. Pumpkin pie is super easy to make. Especially if a lot of people just buy their crust. Of course, I love to make my crust, and I have a super easy oil pastry crust recipe for pumpkin pie too that is on my YouTube channel. And you could check that out too, and it's super easy. But I have been known to buy pie crust in the past myself when I'm in a hurry. I don't much anymore, but I have done it when I was busy still working and raising children. I often bought a pie crust. My sister has asked me to do a comparison of purchased pie crust to see which are the best. So I'll be making that video in the future as well. So all right, I have gotten my pumpkins are now completely cleaned out and ready to bake. This is, as you see, this is how much really seeds and membrane was in those 2 small pumpkins. So there'll be lots of seeds there that we can roast later for a nice little snack. But now, in order to roast these, I have already prepared a cookie sheet or my baking sheet, and I'm using my large baking sheet. And I prepared it, and I put some parchment paper on there so they wouldn't stick. So, and then I'm just gonna lay these on my parchment paper here on my cookie sheet. I'm gonna just put them on there. They may have even fit on my smaller one, but I'm gonna use this big one. Then I'm gonna put this in the oven at 350 degrees. Now, when you try to look online to find out how to do this, you will find almost all of them bake at 350, but you will find times from 30 minutes all the way to 45. What I plan to do is set my timer for 30 minutes, and then I will begin testing at that time and checking for doneness from 30 to 45, and I'll just be testing by poking my knife into the outer skin, and by the time when it's ready, it should poke in very easily. So we're just going to put these in the oven at 350 until they are soft, hopefully in about 30 minutes. So when those are done, I'll be back. My pumpkins are out of the oven, and you can just see my knife just slips right into them. It's just very tender and cooked. I have to say this though, I forgot to set my timer at first for 30 minutes, and I even ran to the store to get something. So I'm guessing now that I actually baked these about, I baked them about 40 to 45 minutes. I really lost track of time, but I think depending on the size of your pumpkins, it will take between 35 and 45 minutes to bake your pumpkins. All right, I'm gonna let these cool just a little bit, and then we're going to puree these in my blender. I don't know if you can see the steam coming up, but definitely there's steam coming off of these. I'm gonna flip them over just a little bit, let them cool down just a little bit. But while they're still warm, I definitely wanna start getting all of this pumpkin out of the shell here, and I am putting it into my my blender. You could use a food processor as well, but I'm using my blender. I think I have a Ninja blender, and I just think it might actually blend it a little smoother, make a little smoother puree. It has an actual puree button on here. So that's what I'm gonna do. So we're gonna get all of this pulp meat out of this pumpkin into my blender, and then we'll be ready to blend. am just going to set this on puree and just puree it until it gets to a good consistency. I will also say I apologize for my background kitchen. I've started cooking supper while this was baking, so the kitchen's kind of in the real mode today. So here we go. We're gonna puree this. Didn't have my lid on in the right way. Haven't used it in a long time, so I had my lid on wrong. It wouldn't work. Here we go. All right, I have put my bowl that I'm going to put this puree in on my scale and zeroed it out so I can see just exactly how much puree this made. Now, some of the recipes or some of the videos I watched talked about how this would have more water in it than what you get in a can, and that you should let it sit in cheesecloth and drain. But I don't think mine is so moist that I'm going to need to do that. I'm hoping I'm going to get 15 ounces. So I have a recipe that calls for 15 ounces. And it looks like maybe we're going to get there. Yep, I just hit 15. So a little bit over. Gotta get every bit of that out. It's too good not to get out. Even if I don't need it in my recipe, I'll find something else to do with it. Or you can actually just put pumpkin in your soups. Just add a little pumpkin. My daughter cannot eat tomatoes. It's one of the things that triggers her migraines. And she puts pumpkin in lots of things. She substitutes it for spaghetti sauce, for the tomatoes in spaghetti sauce, and lots of other dishes she makes. And I'll be honest, I thought it was going to be awful and weird, but I could not really tell. It wasn't as good as spaghetti sauce made with tomatoes. But if you can't eat tomatoes, by the time it was seasoned up and the meat was in there, it tasted like spaghetti. You could not taste the pumpkin in that. I ended up with I ended up with almost 22 ounces. So I've got more than enough out of those 2 pumpkins to make a pie if I want to, or any kind of pumpkin dessert. And so I'm going to do that, and I'm going to try to make a video of me making I think it's called a crunch pumpkin dessert or something. And it's a new recipe that I'm going to try. I hope you've enjoyed this recipe. Watch me bake my pumpkins today, and I hope it was helpful for you. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends on social media. And subscribe if you've not joined my channel. Every subscriber makes a difference. And I will see you the next time I'm in my kitchen, on my porch, or in my garden.